Tesla myths and rumors are aplenty. Despite such a supportive community behind Tesla and its CEO Elon Musk, the general public still doesn't fully grasp the all-electric automaker's mission or understand its next-gen vehicles. Today, we are going to discuss the top 5 Tesla myths and misconceptions and debunk them. There are a lot of people and organizations out there that are not on board with Tesla or just EVs in general. Some of these people just outright hate Tesla, so let's get into it. The first myth is that a Tesla is worse for the environment than a regular internal combustion engine vehicle. Jason from the YouTube channel Engineering Explained talked about this in depth, but a quick overview is that when you're talking about this, it gets broken down into two main sections: emissions and materials/mining for battery components. The questions that pertain to these respective sections are what the emissions are when a vehicle is produced and what the emissions are from vehicle use. By simplifying this topic to these two categories and questions, we're now able to find out which vehicle is better for its life cycle. According to the EPA, electric vehicles have a smaller carbon footprint than gas-powered cars, even when accounting for the electricity used for charging. EVs have no tailpipe emissions. Generating the electricity used to charge EVs, however, may create carbon pollution. The amount varies widely based on how local power is generated. For example, using coal or natural gas, which emits carbon pollution, versus renewable resources like wind or solar, which do not. Even accounting for these electricity emissions, research shows that an EV is typically responsible for lower levels of greenhouse gases than an average new gasoline vehicle. To the extent that more renewable energy sources like wind and solar are used to generate electricity, the total greenhouse gases associated with EVs could even be lower. Electric motors convert nearly 80% of the chemical energy from the batteries to power the wheels. By comparison, internal combustion engines only convert about 20% of the energy stored in gasoline. So even if you are living in a state where the primary source of energy comes from fossil fuels, you're still way more efficient and quote-unquote less polluting than a gas-powered vehicle from that same state. The EPA and Department of Energy's Beyond Tailpipe Emissions calculator can help you estimate the greenhouse gas emissions associated with charging and driving an EV or a plug-in hybrid where you live. You can select an EV or PHEV model and type in your zip code to see the CO2 emissions and how they stack up against those associated with a gasoline car. The greenhouse gas emissions associated with an electric vehicle over its lifetime are lower than those from an average gasoline-powered vehicle, even when accounting for manufacturing. Some studies have shown that making a typical EV can create more carbon pollution than making a gasoline car. This is because of the additional energy required to manufacture an EV's battery. Still, over the lifetime of the vehicle, total greenhouse gas emissions associated with manufacturing, charging, and driving an EV are lower than the total greenhouse gas emissions associated with a gasoline car. That's because EVs have zero tailpipe emissions and are typically responsible for significantly fewer greenhouse gas emissions during operation. And as I mentioned earlier, they are way more efficient than a gasoline vehicle. For example, researchers at the Argonne National Laboratory estimated emissions for both a gas car and an EV with a 300-mile electric range. In their estimates, while greenhouse gas emissions from EV manufacturing are higher, the total greenhouse gas emissions from the EV are still lower than those for a gasoline car. So overall, the initial production of an electric vehicle can create more pollution than producing a gasoline car, mainly because of the battery. But over the lifetime of the vehicle, the total greenhouse gas emissions associated with manufacturing, charging, and driving an EV are much lower than the total emissions associated with a gasoline car. A quick little side note is that Tesla can recover about 95% of the battery materials at the end of a car's lifetime, and as far as the batteries go for R&D, Tesla is able to recycle 100% of the lithium-ion batteries for those vehicles. Range anxiety is the next common misconception that a lot of people have regarding EVs. Range anxiety is a term used to describe the feeling electric car owners go through when their cars run out of power. It is a common misconception that EVs can't be driven long distances because charging stations are too few and far in between, unlike gas stations, which are abundant. There are plenty of gas stations for internal combustion engine vehicles, but there's a growing number of charging stations for EVs as well. Tesla, for one, has a network of supercharging stations all over the world which are continually growing and evolving. According to Tesla's supercharger website, there are over 30,000 Tesla superchargers across the globe. In addition, since Tesla is constantly expanding the supercharger network, this will be more than enough to meet your supercharging needs for your road trips. Americans drive an average of 40 miles per day, according to the US Department of Transportation. Even the shortest range electric vehicles can travel more than 3 times that distance before needing to be tethered to the power grid. Among affordable EVs, the Nissan Leaf can run for an average of 150 miles on a charge. The full electric version of the Hyundai Kona boasts an operating range of 258 miles, while the Chevrolet Bolt ups the ante to 259 miles. If you have deeper pockets, the top version of the Tesla Model 3 has 358 miles, while its costlier sibling, the Model S, maxes out at 396 miles on a single charge. It's safe to say that EVs have more than enough range for your daily commute and that you do not have to worry about range anxiety, especially for Teslas. Electric vehicle range is more than enough for typical daily use in the US. EVs have sufficient range to cover a typical household's daily travel. Furthermore, the majority of households, roughly 85%, travel under 100 miles on a typical day. Automakers have announced plans to release even more long-range models in the coming years. Also, how you drive your vehicle and the driving conditions, including hot and cold weather, also affect the range of an electric vehicle. For instance, range could decrease during cold temperatures and the use of the heater. 100% of my home charging happens overnight while I sleep. I wake up to a full charge every morning and never take time out of my schedule to charge during my normal driving. It literally only takes me 5 seconds to plug in my charger and then I'm done. On road trips, Tesla superchargers charge many times faster than when I am charging at home. So when I'm traveling long distances, I usually stop to charge for about 15 to 25 minutes every few hours. The vast majority of Americans drive around 40 miles per day for their commute. All Teslas have more than enough range to cover your typical daily travel. The third common myth for Teslas is the maintenance and the price tag. Tesla Models S, X, and Roadster do come with a hefty price tag, but it was all part of Elon Musk's master plan. Most of the revenue that came from Tesla's first 3 cars were used to prepare for and produce the Model 3, which is the more affordable vehicle in the all-electric carmaker's fleet. The Model 3 starts at $44,990. This places the vehicle in the same price range as other popular sedans like the BMW 3 Series, which starts at $41,450. However, the Model S, 3, X, and Y make up for the price tag with their low maintenance costs. The expenses of owning a traditional car don't end with its price tag. Car expenses linger throughout its ownership and maintenance costs can be heavy. The cost of gas versus charging is one of the most discussed topics when choosing between an EV and an internal combustion engine vehicle. Still, it is much cheaper to keep a Tesla running than an internal combustion engine vehicle. Just on fuel alone, you are saving a lot of money owning a Tesla. For example, a similar in-class vehicle to the Model Y would be the Mercedes-Benz GLA 45. It has very similar horsepower and torque numbers along with a similar price tag. It has a combined MPG of 23 miles per gallon. The fuel tank for the GLA 45 is 13.5 gallons, and the MPG equivalent or MPGe for the Model Y is 125. The battery size for the Model Y is 75 kilowatt hours. Comparing the price of gas and electricity is where Tesla really differentiates itself. The current average price for premium gas in the United States is $4.02 per gallon. And the average price of electricity per kilowatt hour in the United States is 10.42 cents. So at each fill up for the GLA 45, you're paying $54.27. And to charge the Model Y up to 100%, it would cost you $7.82. This really starts to add up over the course of your yearly driving, especially since the average yearly driving in the US is 13,500 miles per year, according to the US Department of Transportation. So overall, EVs cost less to keep running than internal combustion engine vehicles. EVs don't require regular oil changes or tune-ups, and there are far fewer moving parts to eventually fail and need replacing. EVs use a simple one-speed transmission and don't have the parts like spark plugs, valves, fuel tank, muffler/tailpipe, distributor, starter, clutch, drive belts, hoses, a catalytic converter, and so on and so forth. EVs are very simple, a battery and a motor. That's it. The maintenance that you have to do on your Tesla is to top up your windshield wiper fluid, rotate the tires, and replace the air cabin filter every few years. No more oil changes, engine problems, transmission problems, alternator problems, and best of all, replacing brake pads because of regen braking. Regen braking and single pedal driving put less friction and stress on Tesla's brake pads, which give them a longer lifespan. The cherry on top is that you do not have to deal with a mechanic and you get to save a lot of time that you otherwise would have been spending at the dealership. Hey guys, real quick, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay updated on all future videos. The fourth myth is that Tesla can't survive without regulatory credits. The first example of deeply believed misunderstanding is that of regulatory credits and subsidies. Many who do not like Elon Musk or Tesla often criticize Elon Musk and Tesla for receiving regulatory credits while looking the other way when other large corporations do as well. There's a difference between subsidies and regulatory credits, while noting that these are not handouts as some of the marketed FUD would have you believe. Regulatory credits were created in a push to reduce carbon emissions. Governments around the world have introduced incentives for automakers to develop electric vehicles or very low carbon emitting vehicles. Credits are given to car makers that build and sell environmentally friendly vehicles. In the US, California and at least 13 other states have rules surrounding regulatory credits. They require auto manufacturers to produce a certain number of so-called zero-emission vehicles or ZEVs based on the total number of cars sold in that particular state. Automakers that produce such cars will get a certain number of credits based on factors like the range of the vehicle. Longer range ZEVs will get more credits. These car makers are required to have a certain number of regulatory credits each year. If they can't meet their target, they can buy them from other companies that have excess credits. Because Tesla only sells electric cars which come under the ZEV category, the company always has excess regulatory credits and can effectively sell them at a 100% profit. If certain automakers don't meet those strict standards, then they have to pay some fines. But in order to avoid those fines, these governments have set up a system where they could buy these certain emission credits from other auto companies that don't give much emissions out of their cars. The FUD centered around regulatory credits is often linked with the idea that Tesla isn't making money on its vehicles. The two combined are something that many think is a real thing. The myth is that Tesla is getting free money from other companies and not making a profit from selling its cars. This thought is pure FUD. Tesla has been profitable for many quarters now. For Q2 of 2021, they had a net income of $1,142 million and only $354 million was from regulatory credits for that quarter. So $788 million in real net income, if you will. For Q3 of 2021, Tesla reported a net income of $1,618 million and only $279 million in regulatory credits. So $1,339 million in net profit after the regulatory credits. Overall, Tesla is rapidly growing as a company and so is their gross revenue. As time progresses, Tesla becomes more and more profitable and the naysayers that spread all the FUD slowly disappear. The fifth myth is that Teslas are dangerous. Tesla vehicles are new in the car industry. Electric cars aren't new in the world of cars, but the technology behind it is not widely used in the car industry. As such, electric motors have been classified as new technology, and people often relate new tech to dangerous tech. Half the reason Teslas are perceived as dangerous is because not many people understand the tech behind them. For example, autopilot is commonly misunderstood by the public. Tesla created autopilot to prevent accidents caused by human error from happening. Ironically, it's people's misuse of autopilot that has led to being misunderstood. Tesla's autopilot and other safety features it puts in its cars has shown promising results in reducing car accidents. According to Tesla's Q2 2021 safety report, only one accident occurred for every 4.41 million miles driven in a Tesla. On the other hand, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA for short, revealed that one car accident occurred for every 484,000 miles. Teslas are nearly 10 times safer than any other vehicles out there on the road. As for concerns over EV batteries catching fire, perhaps even exploding in a collision, they appear to be somewhat exaggerated. A recent in-depth investigation on Tesla's batteries conducted by NHTSA concluded that the frequency and severity of fires and explosions from lithium-ion battery systems are significantly fewer than those for gasoline or diesel-powered vehicles. Tesla vehicles have achieved the lowest probability of injury of any vehicle ever tested by the US government's new car assessment program. Much of this has to do with the rigid, fortified structure of the battery pack that is mounted to the car's floor, which provides a vehicle with exceptional strength, large crumple zones, and a unique low center of gravity. Because of their strength, Tesla's battery packs rarely incur serious damage and accidents. And in the extreme unlikely event that a fire occurs, the battery pack ensures that its safety system works as intended and isolates a fire to select areas within the battery while simultaneously venting heat away from the passenger cabin and the vehicle. According to Tesla's impact report, Teslas are 11 times less likely to catch on fire than a non-Tesla vehicle. Let that sink in. Teslas are the safest vehicles produced and have the lowest probability of injury as tested by the NHTSA. You can see here in this graphic. I think this is from early 2020, which is why the Model Y isn't in this picture, but you get the point. All of Tesla's vehicles have achieved a 5-star overall rating for safety. If you know someone that can benefit from watching this video to learn more about Teslas and the top 5 most common myths debunked, share this video with them. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to stay updated on more videos in the future. Comment your thoughts on the common myths and misconceptions concerning Teslas. And comment what your thoughts are on this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.